the Revised Penal Code, Crimes Against Personal Liberty and Property, Section 2, Trespass to Dwelling, Article 280. Qualified trespass to dwelling. Any private person who shall enter the dwelling of another against the latter's will shall punish by arresto mayor and a fine not exceeding 200,000 pesos. If the offense be committed by means of violence or intimidation, the penalty shall be prison correctional in its medium and maximum periods and a fine not exceeding 200,000 pesos. The provisions of this article shall not be applicable to any person who shall enter another's dwelling for the purpose of preventing some serious harm to himself, the the occupants of the dwelling or a third person, nor shall it be applicable to any person who shall enter a dwelling for the purpose of rendering some service to humanity or justice, nor to anyone who shall enter cafes, taverns, inns, and other public houses while the same are open. Article 281, Other Forms of Trespass. The penalty of arresto menor and or a fine not exceeding 40,000 pesos or both shall be imposed upon any person who shall enter the closed premises or the fence estate of another, while either or both of them are uninhabited, if the prohibition to enter be manifest and the trespasser has not secured the permission of the owner or the caretaker thereof. Section 3. Threats and coercion. Article 282. Grave threats. Any person who shall threaten another with the infliction upon the person, honor, or property of the latter, or of his family, of any wrong amounting to be a crime, shall suffer 1. The penalty next lower in degree than that prescribed by law for the crime he threatened to commit, if the offender shall have made the threat demanding money or imposing any other condition, even though not unlawful, and said offender shall have attained his purpose. If the offender shall not have attained his purpose, the penalty lower by 2 degrees shall be imposed. If the threat be made in writing or through a middleman, the penalty shall be imposed in its maximum period. 2. The penalty of arresto mayor and a fine not exceeding 100,000 pesos if the threat shall not have been made subject to condition. Article 283, Light Threats. A threat to commit a wrong not constituting a crime made in a manner expressed in subdivision 1 of the next preceding article shall be punished by arresto mayor. Article 283, Ban for good behavior. In all cases falling within the 2 next preceding article, the person making the threats may also be required to give bail, not to molest the person threatened. Or if he shall fail to give such bail, he shall be sentenced to gestero. Article 285, Other light threats. The penalty of arresto menor in its minimum period or a fine not exceeding 40,000 shall be imposed upon 1. Any person who, without being included in the provisions of the next preceding article, shall threaten another with a weapon or draw such weapon in a quarrel, unless it be a lawful self-defense. Article 2. Any person who, in the bit of anger, shall orally threaten another with some harm not constituting a crime, and who by subsequent act shows that he did he did not persist in the idea involved in his threat, provided that the circumstances of the offense shall not bring it within the provisions of Article 282. Article 286, grave coercion, the penalty of prison correctional and a fine not exceeding 100,000 pesos shall be imposed upon any person who, without any authority of law, shall, by means of violence, threats, or intimidation, prevent another from doing something not prohibited by law, or to compel him to do something against his will, whether it be right or wrong. If the coercion be committed in violation of the exercise of the right of suffrage, or for the purpose of compelling another to perform any religious act, or to prevent him from exercising such right, or from so doing such act, the penalty next higher in degree shall be imposed. Article 287, light coercion. Any person who, by means of violence, shall seize anything belonging to his debtor for the purpose of applying the same to the payment of the debt shall suffer the penalty of arresto mayor in its medium period and a fine equivalent to the value of the thing, but in no case less than 15,000 pesos. Any other coercion or just vexation shall be punished by arresto menor or a fine ranging from 1,000 pesos to not more than 40,000 pesos or both. Article 288, other similar coercion or compulsory purchase of merchandise and payment of wages by means of tokens. The penalty of arresto mayor or a fine ranging from 40,000 pesos to 100,000 pesos or both shall be imposed upon any person, agent, or officer of any association or corporation who shall force or compel directly or indirectly or shall knowingly permit any laborer or employee employed by him or by such firm or corporation to be forced or compelled to purchase merchandise or commodities of any kind. The same penalties shall be imposed upon any person who shall pay the wages due to a laborer or employee employed by him by means of tokens or objects other than the legal tender currency of the Philippines, unless expressly requested by the laborer or employee. Chapter 3, Discovery and Revelation of Secrets, Article 289, Formation, Maintenance, and Prohibition of Combination of Capital or Labor through Violence or Threats. The penalty of arresto mayor and a fine not exceeding 60,000 pesos shall be imposed upon any person who, for the purpose of organizing, maintaining, or preventing coalitions of capital or labor, strike or laborers, or lockout of employers, shall employ violence or threats in such a degree as to compel or force the laborers or employees in the free and legal exercise of their industry or work, if the act shall not constitute a more serious offense in accordance with the provisions of this code. Article 290, Discovering Secrets through Seizure of Correspondence. The penalty of prison correctional in its minimum and medium periods and a fine not exceeding 100,000 pesos shall be imposed upon any private individual who in order to discover the secrets of another shall seize his papers or letters and reveal the contents thereof. If the offender shall not reveal such secrets, the penalty shall be arresto mayor and a fine not exceeding 100,000 pesos. This provision shall not be applicable to parents, guardians, or person entrusted with the custody of minors with respect to the papers or letters of the children or minors placed under their care or custody, nor to spouses with respect to the papers or letters of either of them. Article 291. Revealing secrets with abuse of office. The penalty of arresto mayor and a fine not exceeding 100,000 pesos shall be imposed upon any manager, employee, or servant who in such capacity shall learn the secrets of his principal or master or shall reveal such secrets. Article 292. Revelation of industrial secrets. The penalty of prison correctional and its minimum and medium periods and a fine not exceeding 100,000 pesos shall be imposed upon the person in charge, employee or workman of any manufacturing or industrial establishment who, to the prejudice of the owner thereof, shall reveal the secrets of the industry of the latter.